Crew bring along with them skills that directly affect your ship, like the payload skill that Sam has that increases the amount of cargo you can hold if he's placed in your ship's crew, while his piloting affects your ship's performance. Hey guys, Dantixie back with another Starfield exhaustive deep dive video. Today we're talking everything ship customization. We're going to get into the weeds of what you can do, how systems work, what kinds of ships you can build, what their parts are and do, and why playing with Legos all those years will finally pay off. If you want an in-depth look at ship travel and combat, or even other Starfield systems, check out these videos. I'll stick around to find out how to win yourself a 3080 or a copy of Starfield. Alright, if you really want to dive into starship design, you want to invest in the starship design skill, as it seemingly is required for the best spaceship parts. Let me introduce you to the starter ship, the Frontier, which is currently sitting in the shipyard. You get this ship early on in the game and it'll be the ground floor to your customization journey. How little or how much you invest in its customization is entirely up to you. You could opt to never touch your new ship, simply upgrading it by acquiring new ships, or you could choose to buy or find parts to keep your starter ship competitive, or a mix of customization and acquiring. Your ship has a range of systems to keep track of, and we'll go through them now. This is your power and the power each system can drain. I say can because you can opt to allocate as little or as much power to each as you have power in your reactor. Weapon systems like lasers, ballistics and missiles will recharge faster and therefore be able to be fired more often the more power they have allocated to them. The more power to your engines, the faster your ship will go, the more power to your shields, the faster they'll recharge, and the more to your gravity drive, the faster you can fold space and warp out of a tough fight. Different parts within those systems will have different power needs as well as different stats, so equipping one laser system on your ship may be different to the next laser system you acquire. We'll go through examples soon. Below the max power of each system is your reactor's total power. We can see here that it's a reactor type A with a max of 14. So when flying your ship, you'll have 14 power pips to allocate across your different systems, but there are 30 total pips to max out all power in all systems. So in this ship, you'll have to play around with your power based on your needs. Maybe you put all your power to engines and shields when just exploring locally, and take everything out of the grav drive. You'll need to manage this aspect unless you build a ship that's a floating power plant. Keep in mind that there will be a mass limit for ships, and between two comparable ships, the one with the most mass will have a lower range and maneuverability. So you won't be able to just pile on as many systems as you want. Here we see an example reactor, the Ion Beam H1010. It generates 16 power. It also provides a repair rate of 2, but it's unclear what that stat means right now. It could mean it auto repairs itself when it's damaged, or that the reactor provides a repair rate to the whole ship. The important thing is you're required to have at least one reactor on your ship in order to power its systems. The better ones being more expensive and or being larger of mass, this one being a mass of 52. Next we have fuel. It's represented as a number. This indicates how far you can grav jump without stopping and heading to a shipyard to auto refuel. This ship's single jump range is 16 light years, so it can jump from one system to another as long as they're within 16 light years of each other and you have enough max fuel. You can also jump to further systems by bouncing from one to another. In this case, getting to Linnaeus would require you to go through Crix and Lunara. However, you do not have enough max fuel capacity to make that jump. The fuel indicates your range before parking, and jump indicates the distance of systems you can reach, with better jump drives letting you reach further away and more dangerous systems. Be careful because fuel tanks, like other major systems, can be damaged. As you can see here, the Titan 350 tank has a health pool of 30 and provides 70 fuel. Then we have hull. It's essentially your HP once your shield is taken down. So you have 366 hull HP and 310 shield HP. Fairly straightforward. With a larger and more durable hull, you'll survive more hits. With a better shield, you'll survive more hits. It's unclear right now how you repair your hull in space, but the assumption is it involves the starship engineering skill. Shields regenerate over time based on the power you've allocated to them. Then we have cargo. This is the amount of storage space your ship has. You'll notice the devs have drastically overloaded this ship in the demo, but being over encumbered usually has negatives. Maybe you won't be able to grav jump effectively with it costing more fuel. This is what I suspect, but there are hints at this in the galaxy map as fuel is represented alongside cargo. You'll also notice that there is shielded capacity. This is your shielded cargo. I'm not sure if this is to shield it from scans, making it so you can smuggle contraband into patrolled areas without being detected, like a true Han Solo, or if this is a way to protect your cargo from damage during firefights. Either way, it's a cool addition to supplement a smuggler playstyle. Next we have the crew. Ship modules will sometimes have space for crew. In this case, the Frontier can bring along two. Crew bring along with them skills that directly affect your ship, like the payload skill that Sam has that increases the amount of cargo you can hold if he's placed in your ship's crew, while his piloting affects your ship's performance. So the more crew you have in your ship, the better it'll perform. In a way, it's like another layer of customization because they can fill very different purposes. Perhaps you'd want to build a heavy cargo ship able to haul vast amounts of resources. You'd crew it with people like Sam and other crew members with the payload skill. Or perhaps a science vessel where you load it out with science-based HABs like this one. Next are your weapon systems. This ship has lasers, ballistics, and missiles. The numbers represent their top level damage but don't take into account fire rate, power recharge rate, shield or hull effectiveness, and other stats that we'll go through soon. You can have up to 3 different weapon systems on, with electromagnetic and particle not being shown here. Then we have the ship's registration status, meaning that you've registered it at a shipyard and are able to pick it up from any one of those in the galaxy. Unregistered ships like this one need to be registered before you can call upon them, usually only being a problem if you steal or acquire ships from their most likely now deceased previous owners. I suspect flying around in an unregistered ship will get you in trouble with the local law enforcement. Then we have the ship's value, this one being particularly low, which is expected of a starter ship. We've seen some approaching the 7 digits. Then we have mass. The size of your ship is a simplistic way of describing mass, but I will for the sake of this video. Mass will affect how your ship will handle in space and will affect its jump range. Larger and bulkier ships being harder to maneuver and will jump shorter ranges without better drives. You can also have multiple ships in your shipyard. It's unclear how many is the maximum. You can then allocate one of those ships as your home ship and it'll be the one you can use and call upon. So while in your shipyard, you can inspect your vessels. You can also enter the shipbuilder or you can upgrade your ship. The vendor will then offer you parts at a price. Hitting upgrade is a quick way to swap in and out better versions of your ship's main systems. Let's have a look at that now. So at the bottom are sections for each of your systems: Weapon 0, 1 and 2, Engines, Shields, and Grav Drive. At the bottom we see the summarized ship stats that we saw before, with mobility and top speed there as well. If we click on the first weapon system, it expands to show us the weapon system this vendor has that can be slotted in and their price. Many of these weapons being more expensive than the ship itself, but hey, that's life. Vendors are going to drastically inflate prices in the Bethesda game. We have the Dragon Pulse laser equipped and it'll automatically compare it to the first weapon we see, the Mauler autocannon. The autocannon has less range, a similar fire rate, more hull damage, less shield damage, more max power, and the same hull contribution. Crew capacity means the crew that you can allocate to it to increase its effectiveness. You'll notice that it does less to shields and more to hull. Ballistic weapons like this have that property, whereas lasers damage shields more than hulls, and mag weapons damage individual ship systems effectively, with particle weapons being balanced. So you might want a variety of weapon types to handle every situation. The next weapon is the Dragon 221, where we have the 221P equipped. This one has a lower fire rate, but higher damage. From the looks of things though, it's a downgrade as 3.49 fire rate is almost half of the 6.65 of the 221P, which makes sense given the low price. Then we have the Dragon 231. It also has the same slower fire rate, but a drastic increase in damage. The Dragon model laser system by Horizon Defense seemingly all very similar. This one, however, requires you to have the Starship design skill at rank 1. If you don't have it, you'll be unable to use this weapon system. So like I mentioned at the start, those who are planning on getting the biggest and greatest ships are going to need to have the skill to do so. Moving down, we have the Flare 15MW, which has that slower fire rate, but an increased range and an increased ratio of shield damage. You can see that different ship parts have different stats and a different look visually. In the upgrade ship menu, we can browse parts the vendor has without altering our ship's design. However, if you want to do that, you can do that by entering the ship builder mode. All the parts you see here can be moved around individually and more can be added. Let's have a look at that in action. We're in the HAB section and we're looking at a range of different ones. This one being the Nova Galactic all-in-one berth. It's a 2x1 in size and it provides 5 hull and has a space for 2 passengers. This will not increase your max crew, instead just being space for people to hang out in your ship. So HABs will make your ship larger, but in turn will provide an area for your passengers or crew to exist. You can see some examples of HABs now. You can even have a HAB for crafting and some for storing weapons and items. So back in the UI, if you press left and right, you can see different variants. So that was the Nova Galactic Berth A, this is the Berth B. The only difference being their looks, and I recommend jumping inside so you can see just what you're getting. This is the Nova Galactic Armory variant, and this is the Captain's Quarters. So yes, you can make yourself a nice private area to chill and admire your trophy of piled up sandwiches, and you could probably make the Normandy from Mass Effect. Note that it doesn't provide crew or passenger slots, obviously because this space is all yours. Next is the computer core, which provides one crew station, letting them be assigned to different systems and applying their skills to your ship. So this is an area your crew can be placed to aid in boosting your ship's effectiveness. You can see the max crew amount going up here. It's a good time to mention as well that adding more mass lowers the jump range, your mobility, and adds to your mass stat. Dropping the range by a whole light year seems quite harsh for only 8 or less mass, so you definitely will need to upgrade your grav drives if you want to have bigger, bulkier ships. Next is the control station, which provides 4 crew stations. Having one of these in your ship seems like a no-brainer, as it's better to put your companions to work rather than giving them a free ride. So we select the control station, and now it's our job to find a spot to fit it in. You'll notice blue highlighted areas on the HABs. These are snap points. Fit a blue spot to another blue spot and it'll snap together like Legos. Fairly simple. So let's check out this Magellan cockpit. It has 2 crew stations, which is why we started with a max of 2 crew. It also stores 240 cargo and provides 5 to the hull. Let's snap it off for a second. When we do, we see the other snap points on the ship. So let's take that control station and snap it right on the other HAB. Notice we'll have the option to undo, redo, change color, duplicate, edit, and flight check. I hope flight check lets us test out the ship in space to see how it looks and performs. So now we should put the cockpit back on the ship and it should be space worthy. However, let's cut ahead to a meal we prepared earlier. This is the same ship with a few changes. Some weapon systems removed, a new cockpit with a lower crew capacity, and now a new bit of cowling at the top. Cowling adds mass but no positive stats. Cowling is purely there for looks, and to be fair, it does make the ship look sleeker. And it does provide points for you to attach things on like weapon systems. So we want to add catting to the side. We can see the spots on the HABs that you can slot into. Do note that adding this cowling lowered jump range by 1 year and mobility by 3. So adding too much might become notable stat-wise. So the cowling snaps on and we're good to go. We've added some cosmetic changes, but now how about something that upgrades the ship? Skipping ahead, we've added some new weapons, shields, and other things. We're now looking at the SGD 1300 grav drive. It's a class A, which doesn't seem to be reflective of its value, rather just its type. It provides 9 to the grav drive stat, 16 to grav drive thrust, 65 to grav drive health, and 6 to the hull. These stats are relatively meaningless without a comparison. It's a huge 32 mass, however, overshadowing the cowling and HAVs by a large amount. Most parts that add something substantial to the ship will have a large mass, which you'll see. We can also see one of the ship's engines, a White Dwarf 2030. It's a class A with max power of 3, so with 2 you'll have 6 power you can allocate in the engines. It has an engine thrust of 13,020, which influences its acceleration, maneuvering thrust, which influences its mobility, and then it has health, which means the system can be damaged by enemy attacks, taking it offline. It provides to the hull and has a crew capacity of 0.25. Not sure exactly how this works, but assigning crew members to the engines means one person can handle 4 of these. Note that it mentions mass affects the performance of your engines, and we've seen plenty of evidence of this in the stats prior. The mass of your engines are a huge 97 each. Keep in mind the HABs were only 8. You could have 12 HABs for every one engine, so expect it to be hard to fit multiple engines on a ship without making it chonk. Finally, you're required to have a rank 2 of Starship design to use these engines. If you want to see something even bigger, check out the Supernova 2000. Its mass is 334 but provides much larger stats to go along with its size. Then we see the Docker, a part of the Starship that lets you dock and board with vessels and space stations. We see that happening here when you disable a ship's engines, board and take out the crew. You can't dock without this module. It only has a mass of 1, so it'll be core on every ship. So you've customized your ship with new parts. What's next? Well, let's take a look at coloring your ship. You can color each individual part or the whole thing. You can customize your paint job to get the exact look you're going for. But don't forget that the parts that you choose for your ship influences how it looks inside. This is a look at the cockpit we just added, which is very different from the one we had before, and this one is a much larger cockpit. This is the one from the HMS Platypus that the sandwich hoarding Bethesda dev uses. It's a DS-31.1 Ares bridge that has 300 cargo space, 5 hull, and a whopping 8 crew stations. With something like this, you could place the bridge at the top of your ship and command it like you would a Starship Enterprise. And that brings me to your imagination, because really, Bethesda games are giving us tools to make whatever we want, even a ship like the Dumpster Fire here. Yes, you can name your ships whatever you want as well. Here is an Optimus Prime looking spaceship. It seems like a series of habs stacked on top of each other, with a bridge at the top and ship landers which provide thrust at the bottom of the feet, and the ship's engines under the arms. I mentioned landers, so let's take a look at a few. These are what your ship needs to be stable on the ground when it's landed. It also provides thrust at takeoff and landing. They don't cost much mass and give your ship a different silhouette when landed. Keep in mind the ones I've shown required a rank 1 of spaceship design. So finally, let's take a look at some designs. This is the Spacer Coyote 3. It has a large reactor and in turn a large shield and jump range. It has huge mass with a large hull for the enemy to burn through, but I can't imagine it being particularly maneuverable. It has a lot of storage space. At 2,280, it costs 47,806 credits, so let's use this ship as a basis of comparison. Here's the Freestar Narcissus. It's a cheaper ship with much lower stats, though it does have a smaller mass and therefore is more maneuverable in dogfights, though it only has basic laser and ballistic systems. Here is the Ecliptic Claymore, the Ecliptic being a faction you can face down in Starfield. Their ship is cheaper than the Coyote 3, but much heavier. It may be because it has a focus on weapon systems with particle missiles and ballistics, all of high stats. It's not quite as tanky or has as much power to play with, but it seems like it'd be deadly if faced unprepared. Then we have the Stiletto, which I showed being disabled and captured before. It's 19k, so capturing and selling this ship would net you a nice bit of cash. It's all over a fairly unremarkable vessel. So let me show you some of the higher end ones. This is the Celestial 2. It's worth 391,350 credits. It has less mass than the Coyote and a smaller reactor, but much more powerful weapons. It looks like a brick with weapon systems strapped to the top. This is the Dragonfire 2. It costs 368,325 credits, has a much larger mass than the Coyote, but once again has extremely powerful weapon systems. This is the first ship that's beaten the Coyote in cargo capacity. At 2,790, even though this is a massive ship, it looks sleek. I love the style on this one. Then we have this Slipstream 2. It costs 264,975 credits, has a very low mass for its size, and fairly powerful weapons. It's not as shielded or protected as the Coyote, but it seems a lot better in dogfights. Also, it has a long jump range due to its low weight and powerful engines. In turn, its cargo capacity suffers greatly at only 340. Then we have the Voyager 3, and like the Star Trek Voyager, it has some crazy shielding tech at 1,315. This is due to a powerful reactor, much stronger than the Coyotes. It also has the most powerful weapon systems yet, with the missiles getting up to 272 damage. It has very far jump range, a decent cargo capacity, larger hull, but strangely not that much larger of a mass, only about 400 more. This ship seems like it carries much better tech, with the price tag to go along with it. At 658,300 credits, by far the most expensive thing we've seen in the game, rightly so as it's a brick with missiles strapped to it. Just look at the weapon systems right below the bridge. I'd love to see what this ship looks like inside and what it looks like flying. Then we have a little bit of a come down after such a high, the Marathon. It has lower stats for a lower price, and it seems like an average ship with nothing remarkable about it, unlike you all for sticking around for so long. I'll end with this. The size you can make your ships are absolutely massive. They do seem to have a size limitation as denoted here, however you can build them upwards as we saw with Optimus Prime. And that's everything ship customization. I'm not sure about you guys, but I want to see just how many powerful weapon systems I can strap to a ship while sacrificing every other system, like a floating fortress. Just what kind of ship will you be making? Let me know below. I recently upgraded to a 4090, so why not give away my 3080 and a few copies of Starfield? If you want to be in the running, all you need to do is be subscribed, hit the bell, and like and comment on my Starfield videos. For more entries, do the same on other Starfield videos or check out my Twitter and Discord. The winner will be chosen using RNG, so more entries give you more chances. Best of luck and thank you so much for watching. I'll be covering the game more than anyone else, so be sure to stay tuned. Ciao friends.